Hello everyone, welcome back to another card combo show with me, Chocobilly, and this week I am going to be looking at Firion from Opus 20, who's an interesting little card. So he's a 1 CP 3k lightning forward with the text, if your opponent controls 4 or more dull characters, Firion gains plus 5000 power, brave, and Firion can attack twice in the same turn. And then when Firion or a forward enters your field, choose one character your opponent controls, dull it. So yeah, he's very easy to kill in the first instance, but provided that you can lock down some of your opponent's characters, it becomes a fair bit bigger, and ultimately, can attack twice, which is really nice, and there's lots of lightning cards that can attack twice, or deal double damage, deal additional points of damage off of certain abilities, and to be honest, just when Firion or a forward enters the field, choose one character opponent controls, dull it. That's character your opponent controls, so you can dull out their backup just from playing Firion or a monster or something like that. You can really go aggressive with this card, because as long as you're just playing things onto the field, well, as long as you're playing forwards onto the field, you're able to dull out their backups as well, which is really nice. Obviously, this feels a lot like an ice card and pairs very well with a lot of ice cards. I'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, it's just a really cool card, and I really like its design. But it does kind of feel like it should be a multi-element ice lightning card, which generally are very strong cards anyway. But yeah, the fact that you're getting to dull characters obviously feels very icy, but then obviously you've got the attack twice. Anyway, getting on to the actual combos. So Kadaj. Obviously Kadaj enters the field at the end of your opponent's turn. When he enters, you can dull out a forward, and then that will trigger Firion as well, dull out a character. So it means that even if your opponent has, they want to leave things up for when your opponent, for your turn, Kadaj re-enters, that's their end step. So they cannot trigger anything, they cannot cast anything again at that point. Kadaj will enter and will trigger Firion, and you get to either dull out a forward and a character through Firion, or just, give maybe Firion plus 2k in Brave. He'll already have 5k in Brave, hopefully anyway, but, make him plus 7k in Brave. Or, remove things from your opponent's deck. It doesn't matter. Opponent's break zone, sorry, not deck. That'd be broken. But yeah, coming in at a point where he's kind of protected and triggering Firion is a lot of fun. Squall. So, this is a weird one, but obviously for each dull character opponent controls, Squall gains plus 1000 power, and then when Squall attacks, dull all the backups your opponent controls. So, provided your opponent has, well, at least 4 backups, you attack with Squall, Firion can now attack twice. Now, Squall is very slow, kind of easy to kill these days, especially considering your opponents don't have any dull characters. They can just hit him for 6, he dies. But still, you attack with Squall, you get to dull all your opponent's backups. That's actually a pretty good ability. If that were on a cheaper forward that had maybe some slightly different text, it might get played. But yeah, dull all the backups your opponent controls. As long as that gives you 5 dull or 4 dull characters, Firion can now swing twice as well, which is really nice. And obviously, if Squall's attacking, they've got even a couple of dull backups, a couple of dull forwards. He's now probably a 9k, 10k, which is not something you want to block when he's first strike as well. Zeramus. This is a funny one. So, yeah, you can attack with Squall and dull all your opponent's backups. Pass the turn, your opponent passes their turn, they dull all their forwards. You attack with Squall, you dull all the backups. Everything's dull except for their monsters. And obviously, when anything enters the field, you can use Firion to dull a character, so therefore you can dull their monsters as well. So using these 3 cards, you can fairly consistently just dull out all their things. And yeah, Zeramus is not something I expected to pair with Squall. Obviously, Zeramus is a very nice pairing with Firion, because if Zeramus is on the field at the end of your opponent's turn, they lose all their forwards. You play Firion on the field, well, if Firion's already on the field, or play him on the field and give him haste. Yeah, just more characters for Firion to be able to go ham. Terror. Yeah, really strong card. Enters the field. You may reveal any number of summons from your hand. When you do so, choose up to the same number of characters as the summons you revealed. Dull them and freeze them. I mean, it could even be just a couple of summons in your hand. You get to dull and freeze a couple of characters, which is really good, because that means you're dulling and freezing out potentially monsters and backups as well. But then, obviously, her entering triggers Firion. You get to dull another character. And then you can cast a summon and dull and freeze. You can dull or freeze both a backup and a forward for any summon cast. That's really strong. So you can play Terror onto the field with Firion, only reveal 1 summon, and dull out 1 character through Firion, one, dull and freeze something through Terra's entry, then cast that summon, and dull out 2 other characters. That's not even considering what the summon does. Talking of which, you got the new Shiva, which I didn't realise until I played them this weekend. Choose one character, dull it and freeze it. You paid the extra cost, return Shiva to its own hand, so you can move 4 ice cards from your break zone, you get to come back to your hand. Yeah, I didn't realise you get to dull and freeze a character, so that works very nicely with Firion. And yeah, so Terra enters the field, let's say you don't even reveal anything. That triggers Firion, dull a backup. Cast Shiva, dull and freeze another backup, also triggering Terra. Freeze the backup that got dulled through Firion, and then just dull another forward as well. You're basically on your way to Firion being able to attack 4 times, or attack 2 times already. But yeah, just Terra works very, very nicely with Firion because you get to dull and freeze so many characters in one sitting. And then obviously you got Carbuncle as well. You can choose 1 of the 3 or 2 of the 3 if your opponent has 2 cards or less. Choose one forward, dull it, that's fine. Choose up to 2 character opponent controls, freeze them. Being able to freeze out your characters means that Firion is likely to be online for a longer period of time. So yeah, you can freeze just 2 characters if you want to. Terra will trigger, that means you get to dull those 2 characters as well if they aren't already. So then you've dull and frozen 2 characters, Firion entering. You see where I'm going with this. Nice way just to be able to lock down your opponent's board and have it so Firion can really go ham. Yeah, make sure to like and subscribe. Surprisingly, it makes a big difference to the channel. And it's something silly like 80% of the people that watch these videos aren't subscribed. So please subscribe. That way you get to see all my videos and you don't have to follow me on through Facebook and Reddit and all those other channels. You just get to see it on YouTube. And also liking makes a big difference to the algorithm as well. You know, I know that cheesy thing that YouTubers always talk about, but it means that people that otherwise don't go on other social media, if they just watch the correct kind of content on YouTube, it means that they'll find my stuff naturally on YouTube as well, just by being recommended it. So yeah, please make sure to like and subscribe, it actually makes a difference. Rinoa. So yeah, obviously play Rinoa onto the field, you get to re-trigger something, play that back onto the field. That's 2 things dulled out of the way without even considering the entry effect of those other forwards. But yeah, that's 2 things with Firion and Rinoa. Alcid. Yeah, that's quite hilarious. Play Alcid onto the field, to then play Rinoa onto the field, to re-trigger Alcid, to then play something else onto the field. So that's 4 forwards that have entered, or sorry, technically it's 4 forwards that have entered the field. It's actually 3 forwards that have entered the field, but that triggers Firion every single time. So then Alcid, Rinoa, Alcid, something else. You have now dulled out at least 4 characters through Firion's effect. Not to mention the fact that when Alcid or an ice forward enters the field, you get to freeze a forward as well. That's pretty strong. So now Alcid, Rinoa, Alcid, something else. If that something else is also ice as well, and your opponent has 4 forwards maybe, Firion dulls all of them. Alcid and Rinoa and whatever else freezes them. Not too bad. Vice. I mean, both Alcid and Vice work nicely with Firion anyway, because with Alcid, Firion attacks, you get to dull something out of the way. Firion attacks second turn, dull another thing out of the way. But Vice as well, play him onto the field, make your opponent discard a card, dull and freeze a backup, or a monster if you want. It's just finding means of dull and freezing other characters as well. And not to mention the fact that I've already said, Vice will enter the field, that triggers Firion, you get to dull a character, then your opponent discards a card, you get to dull and freeze another character as well. And obviously with Rinoa, make your opponent discard 2 cards, dull and freeze 2 characters, and again triggering Firion twice as well to be able to dull 2 more things. Yeah. But let's get away from ice for a little bit, shall we? Although we're not completely done with it. But yeah, let's focus on some slightly different combinations here. So obviously the forwards of 1 you control gain haste. That means Firion, provided your opponent's got 4 dull characters, he'll be able to attack twice, but also have haste and brave, and he'll be big, and yeah, that's quite fun. And having Bart party attack, maybe search for the Firion, play Firion onto the field. Oh no, all of a sudden you get a 2 attack, or a 4 that can attack twice even. Yeah, it's just able to go very quick, very fast if you're actually able to get Bart's effect off. And obviously you play Bart's onto the field with Boko. Boko gives Bart's haste, Bart gives Boko haste, you attack with them, you then get to put the thing on the field and play more things, attack with things, and just go wide very quickly. Spicy Sicilian. So choose 1 forward. It can only be blocked by a forward of cost or equal to inferior than its own this turn. So having a 1 CP forward that can attack twice ain't too shabby with Spicy Sicilian. Obviously it works nicely with the likes of, I forgot his name now, and I didn't put him in the video because it only just occurred to me. Is it Hyo? The 1 CP lightning forward, you pay 1 lightning, he becomes 7k, and haste, and then you pay 3 more lightning, and he becomes a 10k that can deal 2 damage with 1 attack. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, yeah, it works very nicely with Spy Sicilian, and similarly, you've got something like Spiritus as well. So you play Spiritus onto the field, and again, it could be through Bartz gets his effect trigger, play Spiritus onto the field, you get to pay however much, then play something else onto the field. And that triggers Firion every single time. You get to deal out characters whilst this is happening, and the great thing about Firion is just when a forward or Firion enters the field, so it doesn't even matter if they're the right elements, they just get to dull stuff out of the way. So Spiritus enters, pay 4, get Kadaj, play him onto the field. You have now been able to dull out 2 things through Firion's effect, maybe 1 thing through Kadaj's effect. Doesn't have to be that though, there's so many good light dark characters even. And not to mention the fact that Bartz gets to search the Spiritus as well. And similarly, you've got Sallow, only 1 CP forward, but play onto the field. One of her options is just choose 1 forward, dull it, so you get to play, or you get to dial out 2 things just from 1 forward entering the field. With Bartz, with Firion, Sallow, gain haste. Sephiroth. Back attack on your opponent's turn, they go to do something, you then respond by playing Sephi onto the field, dull out a character that might have been very integral to their plan, or, you know, a monster or whatever, and that's one of the reasons I really like Firion, is because you get to screw with your opponent's backups as well. Now obviously if they're in wind, it's going to be a bit tougher to really screw with it, but that said, being able to take away that one backup that they need in the middle of a combo or something like that, at least that means you're able to screw with it ever so slightly, and obviously when Sephi enters, you get to choose a dull character and break it as well. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't work with Firion in the same way that you would play Sephi onto the field, dull it with Firion, and then kill it with Sephi. It would have to already be dull when Sephi enters the field. But still, yeah, your opponent's turn, they want to do something, you play Sephi, maybe they just go to attack, you then play Sephi, break the attacking forward, and then dull out another, maybe forward, upon that you could kill with Sephi on their turn, or just a backup that they would otherwise like to use. Maria. So, yeah, the job rebel forwards you control gain plus 1,000 for each job rebel forward you control. Firion is a warrior and a rebel. It's Final Fantasy 2, so it makes sense. And then if a rebel forward you control is dealt damage, reduce damage by 2,000 instead. So even if you've only got Maria and Firion on the field, Firion becomes a little bit harder to kill. Obviously, Firion would only be a 5k, Maria would only be a 6k, but it means that he is protected from things like Brynhilde and smaller Ifrits, things like that. The 2CP Ramu even. It just means that it becomes very much harder to kill these guys, and your opponent's going to probably have to either really overshoot to kill them, or pay more than you've paid to play these cards. Leon. Obviously, you can play Leon with a Maria in the field at damage 3. You can then play Maria onto the field. Leon into Maria. Get to dull out 2 characters with Firion. That's fun, isn't it? Also, if you've got Maria, Leon, and Firion on the field, Firion will be, hopefully, a 10k if your opponent has 4 dull characters. Why can't I get that man right? 4 dull characters, because obviously he will be an 8k through his own effect. Maria will be buffing him by 3, because you've got 3 rebels on the field, and therefore he'll be an 11k. And then you attack twice with Firion, you get to draw a card every single time through Leon's effect, which is a lot of fun. And then finally, Guy. Why not bring the whole team? Guy into Leon into Maria. You get to dial out 3 characters with Firion's effect. Guy will then be huge because obviously Firion's a warrior. Guy gets buffed by warriors. Maria's there. She buffs all the rebels by the amount of rebels. And yeah, that's just a really scary field. Rebels are a lot of fun. They don't get played that much because they're fairly easy to pick apart through just straight up break effects. But still, that doesn't mean that there isn't something fun you can do with them. And honestly, this Firion sounds like a lot of fun to run with Maria, Leon, and Guy. Princess Sarah. If you're going to be attacking twice, you want to actually be able to attack a second time with him. So using something like Princess Sarah to make it so he can't be targeted by EXs is very important. Obviously, this set you've also got Feel Thanos, which means if your opponent does trigger an EX burst, they then get dealt 3 more points of damage, which is not something they're going to do when you've got a forward that attacks twice. Because obviously they would only take 1 additional point of damage rather than 3. Hope. Just, yeah, you play Firion onto the field, you play anything onto the field, you get to dull a character. And now it's frozen as well, because whenever an active character your opponent controls becomes dull due to a summon or ability, freeze it. It's every single time you play something on the field with Firion on the field with Hope in the field. Nice. Mid-Previa, just a nice way to be able to recur Firion, or just play other things, you know. I actually forgot to put the Scions into this video. How the hell did I forget to put the Scions into the video? But the idea, obviously, is play forwards that can play other forwards, and then you get to dull more characters. Mid-Previa can either restore your Firion, or it could bring in Hyo or Salire or something like that, because he can only bring out lightning forwards of 1 CP, but still, Firion is one of those. And then, you know, you could also just play, what's the Scion? Elise into Grahatia, into something else, dulling out 3 things, having haste off of stuff, and yeah, just go ham, because why not? And then finally, Man in Black, also from Opus 20. So at the beginning of the attack phase during each player's turn, choose up to 2 forwards opponent controls. If your opponent doesn't pay 3, they gain this forward cannot attack or block until the end of the turn. Now, obviously, if you're dulling things out of the way with Firion's effect, then, you know, why would you want them to be able to block potentially and make the payment with Man in Black? The thing is, if you're dulling out their backups, it means that the payment's going to be a lot harder for them to make. And that's something you can start to do in this sort of deck setup. You can be playing Man in Black onto the field with Firion there, dulling out maybe their only backup that's left standing. Now, if they want to pay the 3 through Man in Black's effect, they will have to discard 2 cards from hand, which is, you know, really, really good. But similarly as well, if you wanted to dull out their backups and leave them with the forwards, they have to make the payment. You could then maybe dull them out of the way with a summon like Shiva, for example, anyway, so they make the payment and then they can't block regardless. You could just have Alcid on the field. Whenever a lightning forward attacks, dull a forward out of the way. So yeah, having Man in Black means that your opponent's going to have to consider that they have to make payments through their backups or their hand, which means they're going to be dulling things, which means Firion will be getting bigger and probably attack multiple times anyway. But then you'll also be able to stop them from blocking anyway, so yeah, kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. And there we go, folks. That's Firion. He's a really cool card. I'm really looking forward to experimenting with him. I haven't built any decks with this card yet, but there are so many different ways that I want to go with it. The obvious one is Ice Lightning. I don't want to go down that route though, because that's a lot of decks at the moment. I also really want to build a Final Fantasy 8 deck, which is Ice Lightning. Could be Mono Ice using the new Griever and Ultimecia, but generally it'll probably be Ice Lightning. But yeah, I quite like the idea of maybe just going down the route of the Rebels as well, because I've already actually built a Rebels deck using the Warrior engine, so yeah, that's a bit weird. It's funny how just a little bit of support for one job or one character, and all of a sudden all these other archetypes start becoming more interesting again. But yeah, let me know what you guys would put Firion with. There are some really cool cards and really, really good ways of being able to use Firion. But yeah, just let me know how you guys would use him, what you'd put him with. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Stay safe, be lucky, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!